Okay everyone, so I will read about the poetry. The title is Driven by Edgar Allan. So before we start about talking about the poetry analysis, I want to talk about Edgar Allan Poe. Who is the Edgar Allan Poe? Edgar Allan Poe was an American writer, poet, editor, and literary critic. He is widely recognized as the pioneer of the Gothic literature because many of his work combines mystery, horror, psychology, and supernatural elements. His writing often explored themes such as death, grief, madness, loneliness, and the darker side of the human mind. And then The Raven, first published in 1845, this quickly became his most famous work because of its beautiful rhythm, emotional depth, and unforgettable refrain, Nevermore. Even today, it is considered one of the greatest narrative poems in English literature. And then the next is about the synopsis of the poetry. So the poetry is made, but the story begins with the speaker grieving over the loss of Lenore. As he tries to distract himself by reading books, he hears a mysterious knocking sound. Soon, a raven enters his room and sits about the chamber door. Every question the speaker asks is answered with only one word. At the last part of the poetry, that is Nevermore. At first, he is curious. Later, he begins to interpret the bird's answer personally. Finally, he realized that his hope of seeing Lenore again is gone forever. This emotional journey is transformed the poem from simply curiosity into the complete despair. Okay, and then the next is area of studies. I want to talk about poetry analysis. So this is the outline or the areas of study in poetry analysis that I want to analyze the poem to several literary aspects. This includes like speaker and voice, and then the next is tone, structure, and form, figurative language, sound devices, symbolism, theme, and values. Each of these elements help us understand how Poe creates a powerful emotion through the poem. So the next is firstly is structure and voice. Okay, so in this poetry, the speaker is an unnamed man who recently lost his beloved. He said the name is Lenore. Because the poem uses the first point of view, readers experience every emotion directly through his eyes. The speaker appears intelligent and educated because he spent his time reading ancient books and makes several classical and biblical references. However, despite his intelligence, he is emotionally overwhelmed by grief. His emotional development changes through the poem. At the beginning, he is calm but deeply sad. In the middle, he becomes curious and increasingly anxious after the raven arrives. By the end, he completely loses hope and falls into despair. This gradual change makes the speaker feel realistic and emotionally powerful. And then the next slide is about tone. The tone of this poetry changes significantly from beginning to the end. At the first, the atmosphere is quiet, reflective, and melancholic. The speaker is simply remembering Lenore while sitting alone at midnight. As the mysterious knocking begins, the tone becomes suspenseful and creates tension. Readers start wondering what is outside the door. After the raven appears and repeatedly says nevermore, the tone shifts again, like like more down, and then it becomes hopeless, desperate, frightening, and psychologically disturbing. And Poe carefully builds this emotional progression so readers feel the speaker's growing despair. So the next is structure and form. The Raven is a narrative poem because it tells a complete story with characters, setting, and conflict and resolution. It consists of 80 stanzas, each containing 6 lines. Poe uses trochaic octameter, where each line generally begins with a stressed syllable followed by unstressed syllable. This rhythmic pattern creates a musical quality that makes the poem memorable. The rhyme scheme is ABC-BBB, producing strong repetition and harmony. Most importantly, Poe repeats the refrain nevermore through the poem. This repetition reinforces the central message that the speaker's hope is permanently lost. And then the next we talk about figurative language. So Edgar Allan Poe uses many literary devices to strengthen the poem's meaning. First, the raven symbolizes death, grief, and hopelessness. It is more than just a bird. It represents a speaker's inability to escape sorrow. The line describing the dying ember casting a curse on the floor is an example of personification, making the room feel haunted. Poe also creates vivid imagery through description of darkness, purple curtains, candlelight, and the silent room. This image helps readers visualize the gothic atmosphere. In addition, the poem contains several allusions. Palace represents wisdom, Pluto refers the Roman card and the underworld, and Nepenthe is the mythical tree that erases sorrow. Bob Skylit symbolizes healing. This reference deepens the poem's meaning and show the speaker's education. So the next we talk about sound devices. One of the reasons is the raven is so famous. It is its musical sound. Poe carefully combines several sound devices. We can find alliteration in phrases such as weak and weary, where repeated consonant sound creates smooth rhythm. Internal rhyme appears within the same line, making the poem flow naturally. And rhyme connects lines together and strengthens the musical pattern. Repetition, especially the word nevermore, is reinforced the speaker's growing despair. Finally, onomatopoeia appears in words like a tapping, allowing readers to almost hear the mysterious knocking. Together, this technique creates suspense while making the poem pleasant to read aloud. And then the next is symbolism. So symbolism is one of the strongest features of the raven. The raven symbolizes death, grief, and the permanence of loss. Lenore represents lost love, the beauty that can never return. Midnight symbolizes darkness, fear and uncertainty. December represents the end of life and emotional decline. And then darkness reflects depression and loneliness. And then finally, the buzz of palace symbolizes wisdom. Interestingly, the raven sits about the past, suggesting that emotion and grief have overcome reason and logic. So next is we talk about themes and values. Several important themes appear through the poem. Like the first is grief. The speaker cannot move on after losing Lenore. Another important theme is death and the permanence of loss. Poe also explore love, memory, loneliness, and even madness as the speaker slowly loses emotional control. Despite its sadness, the poem also offers valuable lessons. It reminds us that loss is unavoidable part of life. Although people we love may disappear physically, their memories remain with us. At the same time, the poem teaches the unresolved grief and seriously affect a person's mental and emotional well-being. And then, in conclusion, The Raven is much more than a poem about talking bird. It is a profound exploration of grief, memory, and the human struggle to accept irreversible loss. Through powerful symbolism, memorable sound pattern, and emotional storytelling, Edgar Allan Poe creates a timeless masterpiece that continues to resonate with readers around the world. Thank you very much for your attention, everyone. We're happy to answer any question. But this is about video presentation. I think there's no question. Okay, thank you everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.